Well, that's fun. We have double sound. There we go. Welcome everyone. Welcome, Chaz. Thank you for being here and joining us. I appreciate having you. And I'm excited to have everybody here for our special masterclass all about the impact effect. Here, let me see if I could spotlight myself there. So now I just get take over your screens for a short little bit. But thank you everyone for hopping in, joining us, whether you're watching this live, you're here, like Beverly hopped in and joined us. Welcome, Beverly. Or you're watching this on YouTube, or you're watching the replay. Thank you so much for being here, and thank you for being part of our Energizer family. It is amazing to have you part of our family, sharing your light, sharing positive energy around the world. And I'm super excited for this master class with Chaz Wilson, who I got to know just a couple months ago at the Movement Maker Live event in Nashville with Michael Faber and the Unleashed community. Got to hear him speak and all the amazing things that he does, and is now getting even more involved with his communities and to see the impact he has. I was excited to talk with him, learn from him, and then invite him to share his wisdom here, because you have a beautiful light inside of you, right? You're sharing love, light, positivity, joy around the world. Well, how can we grow that? How can you impact even more people? Even if you don't think about it, you're impacting people's lives. Well, now let's be even more intentional about it and help people step into their light and shine. So I see Beverly's here. Great to have you. Bernil, thank you for hopping in, joining us live. And if you are watching this on YouTube or another place on Facebook, come join us in the Zoom room. We'd love it, love to have you. But without further ado, let me welcome our amazing and incredible guest. He is owner of Master Networks. He does some amazing coaching and consulting as well, and he has become a friend of mine, and I'm excited to see where our friendship takes us. So let's get on the guru of impact, Chaz Wilson. Welcome, Chaz.
Awesome. Thank you. Spencer, could you have my audio good?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, awesome. Thank you. And in a minute, I'm going to share my tablet so if I'm able to do that. Guys, I'm so excited to be with you. I have a question I'm going to ask you here in a second, and I'll ask for forgiveness a bit. I actually hate doing that when I speak, but I'm going to say this up front. So I have 5 children, 3 of which are in high school right now, 3 boys that play football. And we had a football game Thursday night and a football game last night. And my voice, I realize I'm going to have to be careful. I cannot yell on a Thursday night and a Friday night and then speak on Saturday, right? So I was all praying last night my voice would stay with me, Spencer. So we've got the time here. My voice, if it dies afterwards, we're all good. But I'm gonna be here with you guys. I want to ask you a question to start. And this is a Saturday morning. I saw someone saying, "Hey, I'm going to keep my camera off while I eat my breakfast," which is totally cool. I love that. And I hope that not only are you going to feed your body, but I'm going to feed your soul here for a minute. But I'm going to ask you a question. And today's Saturday morning Impact Effect Masterclass is going to be a little bit heavy, a little bit heady, meaning a lot of head work here and internal work, which I think is okay. But I want to ask you this question. Are you living your life in such a way that in 2 or 3 generations from now, those people will even know you lived? That's a heavy question to start. Spencer's probably like, oh man, why did I invite this guy here? The reason why I asked this question, and I'm going to frame it this way. When I speak on stages, this is one of the questions I asked. I started this about 5.5 years ago. I asked this question. I had everyone in the room, and if you can imagine about 500 people in the room, I had all of them stand in the room. And I said, now, if any of you in this room know the story of your parents, meaning you know where they met, and I want you to answer the same question. Of course, you don't have to stand at home or wherever you're watching this, but I want you to think about this. If any of you know the story of your parents, meaning you know where they were born, you know where they grew up and how they met, I want you to remain standing in the room. And surprisingly, about to my first, this is always a mistake as a speaker when you ask a question or you do something you don't know the outcome, right? You should always know what you're going. And so I was a little bit nervous when I did this, but about 10% of the room sat down, meaning 10% of the room did not know who their parents were, what the story was, how their parents met, etc. All right. And then I said, okay, now on both sides of your family, your grandparents, if you know your grandparents, where they grew up, where they met, all of that kind of stuff, if you know that, remain standing, the rest of you sit down. You guys, 50% or more of that room sat down. Think about that for a minute. Just let that land. And then I said, okay. And so now I've got maybe 20, 25% of the room. I said, for these amazing people that know their history, if you will, if you know now your great grandparents, same thing, remain standing. And I had about 5 people in the room standing. That was it. Like if you know their names, where they grew up, and I had about 5 people out of maybe 500. So 1%. I didn't realize the impact, pun totally intended here. I did not realize the impact that one visual would make for the rest of my life, let alone the people in that room. Because what it demonstrated to all of us is that these people that went before us, now, these people that went before us lived amazing lives, and we are in this room and don't know anything about them. And with technology at our fingertips, it's so easy to learn about our ancestors. Now, you're like, what does this have to do with impact? Just hang with me for 1 second. So I actually went, and it woke me up, and I started studying, and I found some of my history and amazing stories and journals, and I was like, wow, I didn't even realize. But what it got me thinking is that someday I will pass, and there will be 2 or 3 generations from me, and will I have lived in such a way that they ever know I even existed? And that's the question I pose to you. Are you living in such a way that in 1 or 2 or 3 generations from now, anyone will know you existed? And you're like, Jazz, I'm just trying to get through the day, let alone live in a way that somebody's going to know I impacted the world. I have right now, this right here, I have been working on a 5-year project called The Impact Effect. Spencer, I'm honored that you invited me to be here. And if it's okay with you guys, I'd like to share with you what's in the book called The Impact Effect. Would you like to see the book, Spencer? Want to see the book? This is the book. It's not even printed yet. You are getting the first, if it's okay with you, you guys are getting the first run through of my edited edition of this, but I'm going to teach you a couple frameworks in this book, because what we did is 5 years ago, I started down this path. Now, where this started for me is I had a mentor in my life who poured a ton of value into me. He saw greatness in me before I could see it in myself. Oh, there's a lesson. If you're taking notes, when you hear something, write it down. Then it doesn't even have to be what I said. It could be what you heard. Remember, that's what I said. When you hear something, it may not have been what I said, but what did you hear? Hear, what did you hear? When you hear it, write it down. And if you want to, if you're on with us live, and if you're watching on YouTube, I'd love to have you join us on Zoom. And you can write in the comments. It does not distract me, by the way. This is not like speaking on stage. I hope that's okay, Spencer. This is like, for me, masterclass. So if you guys have an aha, a question, please drop it in. I'm cool with that. When you hear something that lands with you, I'd like you to write it in the chat. Okay. So what I want you to think about is, as I went down this journey with my mentor, Dave, he called me up one day, and he'd been working with me for about 9 years. And he called me up one day. I remember it clearly because he was vacationing in Hawaii. And he said, hey, I was on the beach today. And he said, I got an idea. I want to write a book. I'm like, congrats, that's amazing. And he said, no, I want to write it with you. Now, again, if you take nothing from this, if your mentor calls you and says, I want to write a book with you, here's your answer. Yes. You don't even think about it. You just say yes. And so I was like, okay, yes. I mean, he's written 7 best-selling books, right? Or co-authored with them. I was like, absolutely. He said, you gave me an award, which we did. We gave Dave the Person of Impact Award in our community years ago. And now we've named it the Dave Jenks Person of Influence Award. And so he said, I've thought about this. I have been a person of impact and influence in my life, and I want to write a book about that. And so we started doing research, and we started audio recording everything. And we started interviewing people that we saw in business, primarily entrepreneurs, because I think entrepreneurs, generally speaking, have the best platform to make an impact in the world. And We started interviewing them and gathering common denominators, things that we saw that were the same in their ability to make an impact. And we started putting it together. Then, unfortunately, we're actually almost on the 3-year anniversary. Unfortunately, Dave passed away from COVID or during COVID. I didn't pick up the book for about a year. I just mentally wasn't there. I was like, I don't know that I want to continue this project together. And then I had a good friend that I was sharing that with, and he said, Chaz, the best way to honor Dave and his influence in you is to finish this book. And so for the last 9 months, I have just been like plowing through. Now, here's a funny story. I was terrible in school. I don't like to write and I don't like to read. And so it's funny that I'm working now on my third book, The Impact Effect. And so I'm going to share that with you guys today. If you're taking notes, I want you to understand there are 4 main segments of a person of impact. I also often refer to them as the impact player, because what we understand is the game, it's a game of impact. And if we treat it like a game, we can be competitive, but we can also have fun with this, because when you play a game, you understand. And it's like Simon Sinek said, though, this is the infinite game. There is no finish. And that's hard for people when you, like me, that's competitive. Like I want to win. And so I need to know there's an end and a score and so forth. And that's hard, right? But this is an infinite game we're playing, because if we want it to live a legacy beyond us, it has to be infinite. Okay. It has to be. I love that, Spencer. Yeah, it's so funny. I actually ran into a teacher of mine from school and connected, and she's like, what are you doing, all this stuff? And I was sharing it. She's like, you wrote books? I'm like, I know. It's the craziest thing in the world. I get it. So I'm going to share my screen here if I can. Looks like I can. Now, I only have one favor to ask as I do this. And that is, as I do this, that none of you judge me on my writing. Okay. My penmanship, because not only did I not write in school, I also have terrible penmanship. So here's what I'm going to share with you today. I'm going to start with the spirit of impact. Okay. Yeah, I see other people's mouse. There we go. Thank you. So here's the thing. I'm going to start with the spirit of impact. And this is what I'm going to share with you, this framework here. Okay. And I'm going to do my best. I'm not a good artist. Okay. All right. So this is you. This is you. And each of us in our life, we have this idea. We have this thing that is like, we have this vision of why we started down a path. Why, I'd love to know, by the way, what each of you do. Beverly, Bernil, Jeff, like, what is it that you do? What's the thing in the world that you are going, hey, this is what I do? Now, I'm gonna add to that here in a second, but I want you to think about that. Each of us probably get up each day and we're like, Spencer, you have this vision. You have a vision of something you want to accomplish. The reason that you felt, and sometimes I call it this, right? We call it our calling. And maybe you don't know what that calling is yet. You don't know what that thing is that you're supposed to do. Another thing we call it our purpose. Call it our purpose. And some people are like, I don't know what my purpose is. Just a really simple definition is, I think you can find your purpose at the crossroads of your passion and your proficiency, right? So when you're passionate about something and you're proficient at it, that could be a purpose-driven life. That could be something you have purpose with, right? And that you feel called to do it. And so what happens is way out here, there's this, let's see if I quit touching this with my big fingers, vision. You have this vision out here, right? It's way out there. There's this vision that I see of something I want to accomplish. Spencer, I don't know what your vision is for this community, but you have a vision, I imagine, that you're working towards, right? And so what I find with all these impact players is the interesting part about their vision is they can see it, right? They can clearly see what that looks like. And when you ask an impact player, what's your vision? The funny thing is as they get closer to it, it keeps moving forward. Like it's not something that they probably ever arrive at. That vision keeps expanding. The other second part of this is that's really, really powerful is that all of those visions have guardrails. Okay. That vision has a guardrail, and that is what we call values. Now, I'll just share with you a quick story on this with values. I remember going to a conference. It was actually a Grant Cardone conference years ago in Las Vegas I went to. And Bernil, that's okay. I promise you, just if you hang with me on this, I definitely haven't found my purpose yet. She said, and that's okay. There's actually, this is the one thing about this, when I've done this presentation a few times, is that some people feel like, well, I see this person, or I see Spencer, or I see Beverly, or I see Chaz. And what happens is we compare. And I have two words for you, okay? And I'm not saying you're doing this, but anyone that's thinking this way, stop it. Just stop it. Don't compare to anyone else, okay? That is so dangerous and damaging to our own improvement, okay? And it's okay if you don't know what that is yet. And so here's the thing, that when I got done with this Grant Cardone conference, I feel like I'm so excited. My brain is bouncing around. Has anyone ever felt like that? Like, I feel like I'm just all these thoughts. I want to just pour so much into you guys. So I come back from this Grant Cardone conference, and one of the speakers said, you got to have your values. So I'm like, okay, all right, we got to create our values. So I sat down with my COO, and we created 11 or 13 values. Not only did we create them, you guys, we made a poster. We put a poster on the wall of our values. And I had these two gentlemen come to my office. I tell this story in the book. And these two gentlemen come to my office. Now I'm in Dallas, Texas. And this gentleman walks in with his cowboy hat, his boots, a handshake that would rip your arm off if you're not ready for it, that kind of thing. And he said, Chaz, I'm so excited to be here. We're talking about some merger acquisition stuff that we could do together. And he said, hey, would you give me a tour of your office real quick? Absolutely. And I'm thinking, I hope the office looks good. I'm walking around. So we're walking around the office, and not only just like show me the office, we're walking by everything hanging on the wall. He's like, what does this mean? Tell me about that. I'm like, that's not what we're here to talk about, but I'm happy to share with you. And so we're walking around. He gets to the poster of my values, and he just stares at it for a minute. And then we walk into my office. He sits down, takes his cowboy hat, sets it on the desk, and he says, so I'm mentally preparing. We're going to talk business now. And he said, Chaz, before we do anything, I got to stop. I got to ask you a question. I said, sure. He goes, hey, I saw that poster out there, your values on the wall. I want you to recite them to me in order. I was like, dang. I'm looking at my COO for help. We're in the room, like, we created these together. Come on, surely one of us knows this, right? And embarrassing, right? Humiliating, humbling. But what a lesson. What a lesson. And he said, Chaz, I'm not trying to embarrass you, but let me just tell you something. If you don't know him, your people don't know him. If you can't say him in your sleep, if you can't, every person in your room at the drop of a hat, literally, as I dropped my hat on your desk, if at a drop of a hat, your people couldn't tell me your values, then they're not your values. He said, you have too many. Get it down to 4 or 5, live them, breathe them. It's everything you do. They become, and this was the phrase, they become the guardrails to everything you do. And I was like, man, have you ever had people, I've had like 5 times in my life, someone spoke so much power, it stung me inside, or like I got goosebumps. I was like, man, and that just hit me. And so your values are that. Your values are your guardrails, meaning this. When Spencer reaches out to me and says, hey, would you speak at my event? The reason I can say yes is because he aligns with my values. I align probably with his values, which is why he reached out, right? So I can make decisions for my business and my life based on these values. I can decide. Have you ever, here's a really interesting thought. Have you ever worked with somebody? I'm going to use Beverly on here as an example, even though I guarantee this would not be the case with Beverly. So I hope you still love me after this. Not that you did, but I'm just making an assumption here. But Beverly, let's say I work with Beverly, and Beverly starts to get really frustrated and irritated with me for some reason. She's like, I cannot even put my finger on it, but there's just something not working out here. I would bet you the reason is that I have probably infringed or violated a value of Beverly's, and she may not even realize it yet. So just a little sub masterclass on how to create these values. I would invite you to think about something. Like, the way we created our values is so interesting. We started with thinking about people who have offended us, pissed us off, violated, stole. I don't care what, like, think of an experience that comes up almost in a negative energy. I know this is a positive energy thing, Spencer. So but I promise I'll bring it home. But what we did is we started with that and then came up with the opposite words, meaning, right? Like when someone I had what lied to me, and it really drove me crazy. Like lying to me drives me up a wall. Like I don't care if the truth is really bad, just tell me the truth. Well, so truth might be a value of mine. Does that make sense? Right. So it's the opposite. So for example, our 5 core values are relationships. Number 1, that's our foundation, relationships. Improvement, contribution, accountability, and results. Okay. Now, the way we came up with that is we came up with all these experiences. Then we came up with the opposite words and we listed a bunch of them. We just started flowing on a whiteboard. Here's all the words that might be what those opposites are. And then we went back through and we said, how many of these words are nearly the same? Let's combine them into one word. Now we got a list of 10. Then as we went down the word, if the word was like integrity, if I'm not like, heck yeah, that's it, then it's no, it's off. And so I kind of keep kill until I've whittled it down. Now, once I have my 4 or 5 values, I define what they mean and what they don't mean. Because here's what's fascinating. I just listed my values off to you. I bet all 4 of us, 5 of us on here would have a different definition for what relationships means, what improvement means, what contribution means, what accountability means. So I need to define it. You're like, Ches, but it's only me. I'm my business, or it's just me. You interact with people. Like I've had employees that start to frustrate me, and I'm like, why are they frustrating me? Oh, you know why? Because they're violating our accountability value. They're not being accountable. They're not returning back and reporting what they said they were going to do. They're not taking accountability. They're always pushing it off to other people. They're violating a value. I realize I've been married 24 years to my best friend. My wife's amazing. We have 5 amazing children. And I realized really a number of years ago with this, that if I'm irritating or frustrating my wife, which never happens, but if that happens, it's probably because I'm infringing or pushing up against a value of hers. And it creates potential conflict, right? Because we have shared values, but we also, each of us have internal different values, things we value, right? So I know I'm spending a lot of time on this, but I just want to dig on this because your values are where you make decisions. It's how you make decisions. It's who you work with based on a set of values. Okay. Fair enough. I'll leave that there, but just create your values if you don't have them. Like you've got to know them inside and out. Okay. Now to this vision, there's a through line, and that through line is your message. For example, my message right now is, and the thing I'm about to my vision is, you're only one relationship away from changing your future. You're one relationship away from everything. For me, one of those relationships was my wife, I just mentioned, right? Quote, my significant other. She's the most significant relationship in my life, brought me 5 children, right? Supports me in every way possible. That one relationship changed my entire life. Now, Dave, who I mentioned, my mentor, that was another one relationship that changed everything in my life. The challenge for most of us is we say, hey, I want to make an impact, which means I've got to touch thousands and millions of people, or whatever that looks like. I'm going to share two points to hopefully change your perspective on this. Jesus only needed 12. And it impact and change the world forever. Now, I'm not preaching or anything like that. I'm just stating a fact. You may need 10 people. You may need 25 people. You may need 40 people, but you don't need thousands and thousands of people to change the world. And by the way, the greatest impact you'll ever make is in the 4 walls of your own home. That's it. So to eliminate the potential of overwhelm, focus there. Okay. Last point on this one, and that is inside of this purpose and this vision that you have in your through line message, guarded by values, right? Actually, let me help you with your message. One little sub point, because I feel like I skipped past this really fast. One of the prompts you could ask yourself in your message is, when blank happens, the world will change. When blank happens, the world will change. Like when I said you're one relationship away from changing your future, what I'm saying is when one relationship comes into your life, your world changes. When this thing happens, the world changes. That's how you can help define your message. Okay. So values are the guardrails, your message is the through line to your vision. But inside of this, to make an impact, you've got to be able to have a vision big enough that those are people. That's my little visual for people. People have to see that they can fit inside of that vision and still accomplish everything they want. Meaning, Spencer has a vision for impacting the world through this community, but you also see a place where you can fit inside of that and still accomplish what you want, or you wouldn't be in it. Right? So if your vision is big enough to impact the world and people can get inside of it and get along with it and attach the message, awesome. Amazing. They have to be able to see that they fit inside of it. Okay. Now, some people often, when I teach this, they're like, man, Chaz, my vision just isn't big enough. Okay. Okay. That's okay. Where you are is where you are. This isn't a test. This is just for, all this is for people who want to make an impact. That's what this is. If you want to make an impact, have a big vision. The reason why many of us don't have big visions is, think about how you grew up. Dad, can I have this? Mom, can I do this? Mom, can I do that? Dad, can I do that? No, 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 no. And so much of us get no in our life. And so we're so used to no that we don't actually create a vision big enough to inspire others, because we've been told no so much, right? The world gives you a no so often. Sometimes the world, every idea you have, the world gives you a no, but God gave you a knowing, and you know it inside of you, and you know you're called for more. You know you have a purpose for more. And so you just step into it. Like it's so funny, when I started this movement called Master Networks that I have, which is now thousands and thousands of people in multiple countries, impacting the lives of entrepreneurs, it started with me. By the way, I was the toughest sell. I just think about that. I was the toughest sell because I could not see what I could see a little bit, but I'll tell you what it is today, I didn't see at the beginning. So if you're like, I don't see it that far out, it's okay. It's okay. You may not be able to. Okay. So that, by the way, is the spirit of impact, the calling. That's the first framework right there. What I'd like to do, Spencer, if it's okay, because we have a few people on, there might be people on YouTube. I don't even know if you can see the comments on YouTube live or not, but if anyone has a comment or an aha, like, what did you hear? This is super helpful for me. You could be like, Chaz, I didn't really hear anything. That's cool too. Like I'm beyond, you can't offend me. Okay. And so I would just love in the comments to put in, this is what I'm hearing. This is the aha. This is the takeaway for me. I need to work on my message. I need to create my values. I need to have a bigger vision, or whatever it is. What is the aha that you had? I need to get clear on my values. Love that. It's a great exercise too, by the way, Spencer, to just do that. And then each year, by the way, each year in my annual planning meeting with my team, we validate those values again every year. You need to hone your values before really knowing your purpose. Yeah, that's so good. Actually, I love the way you said that. Do it before you know your purpose. By the way, because then your purpose, you know if it fits inside the values. This was so good. I'll just tell you while you're also thinking, this is self-transparency. When I told one of my friends who I valued so much in my life that I was writing a book called The Impact Effect, and I started laying out some of the framework, to be fair, he started laughing at me. He's like, Chaz, you, of all people I know, you're so pragmatic, black and white, X's and O's. everything. He's like, this is like foo-foo for you. Like, this is too fluffy for you. And probably true, but I value this so much. Shoot, I missed one of the other comments. I need to hold it in. I need to get clear. For those who aren't entrepreneurs, how does this work for them in their living their life? It doesn't matter if you're an entrepreneur or not. Thank you, Spencer, for that clarification. Whatever you do that is a platform in life, right? I just taught some of this to a school teacher, right? I shared this with her. I'm like, you have a platform. Your job, the thing that you do, in fact, one of the best platforms, because you have these impressionable youth listening to you every day. You feel called to do that. Oh yeah, I feel called. I want to make a difference. Awesome. Now, how do you do that? Right? You have the spirit of it. You know what your values are. You know your messages inside of what you teach. Now, how do you do it? Right? And so I'm going to share with you the second part of this in life, because in the spirit of impact, for many of us, this is what happens. Okay. And now, Spencer, I'm going to share two things. You keep me on time. If I start to run short, I'm going to share two things that I think are going to make the biggest impact for you guys to leave here today. Jeff said, yes, me too. And it's interesting creating a vision where you're getting on in life. I'm a couple years from retirement. Can I still have a vision? Yeah. Man, if I had more time on that, Jeff, I would share with you the amazing stories, even some in my own family history as I started to learn this, of people who did impactful, amazing things. Most of the time, that's not even done in their 20s or 30s. Like, that's way later on. They're making, all of a sudden it shows up, right? And it's so powerful. But I want to share with you one other quick thing, okay? And this will be pretty quick, but I think this is a great visual for people. I often feel in life that what happens is we have this in this section of the spirit of impact called the ceiling and the floor. What happens in life is we start to make progress in something, like Beverly, Bernil, Jeff, Rebecca, welcome. Some of us will make progress in life at whatever we're doing. And I'm just going to use a business as an example, right? It doesn't matter. You could use sports, you could use whatever. In fact, I've had this question or this conversation with my boys as they want to play football at the next level. And it's like, and they're good. They're probably good enough to do it, but just not yet. And so what happens is they feel like they're hitting a ceiling of achievement, a ceiling of productivity. Or do you ever feel like you're in a rut? You're spinning your wheels, like this doesn't matter. Okay, that's probably the first symptom that you've hit a ceiling. Okay. There's really only three things you can do to change. There's only three. The first, though, is not going to work, but it's the conventional wisdom we all think we should do, and that is to work harder. Hey, if I did this and it got me here, if I just work harder, it's going to get me further. Make sense? That's not going to work. Number two, and I'm seeing this a lot right now. Spencer, I'd be curious. I bet you're seeing this a lot. I bet you're seeing this number two a lot in your interactions with people, especially in economically challenging times. What people do is when they hit a ceiling, they start chasing other opportunities. You guys, this happens in relationships too. You hit a ceiling in your relationship. What do people do? They say, well, we either need to buckle down and work harder, like, right, let's go counseling. I'm not against that, not against it at all. Or I'm going to chase a different opportunity. The challenge in number one and number two is you take you with every one of those things. You go to a new opportunity, guess what? You took you with you. Nothing changes. Eventually, you'll hit the ceiling again. Okay? You will hit the ceiling again. So how do you do it? What you do is, as Dr. Benjamin Hardy said, you raise your floor. You don't hit your head against the ceiling harder. You raise the floor. That's how you break through. The floor is the goal. The ceiling is the goal, the thing you're working towards, but the floor is the standards, the things you've committed. I'll give you an example. This year, I turned 46. Oh, I hate even saying that out loud. I turned 46, okay? I started to notice things physically changing. Like, I didn't have as much energy. It didn't matter. I felt like I was gaining weight no matter what I did. Like, just things weren't the same as it was, okay? And so I felt like I was hitting a ceiling physically. This is super transparent. I know you're recording this, which is dangerous. Okay. So I go to the gym 4 days a week. I'm like, I could go 5 days a week, right? I could run further. I could do this. And I'd probably see incremental gain. What I realized was after I met Dr. Benjamin Hardy was, and if you don't know who he is, you should read all his books. They're amazing, amazing books. Future Self Now, 10X is easier than 2X. Anyway, tons of books, great books. He said, you got to raise your floor. I was like, I don't really know what that means. Tell me what that means. He said, you got to change your standards, meaning this, your identity and the standards that you commit to. So for example, I used to say, because I was a sprinter, a high jumper, a football player, I was like, I'm not a runner. That was my identity. I'm not a runner. I would say it. He's like, no, you're going to change your identity. You're going to change the things. So guess what I started doing? I stopped doing certain things. I needed to let go of certain things. So now my whole routine is different. I don't do things I used to do. I don't stay up late on the weekends at all. I don't. Okay. That changed. So I raised my floor. I have nearly eliminated sugar, right? I let that go. Okay. I started doing different things. My standard was I would go to the gym, work out for 30 minutes, come home, get ready, go. Nope. Now it's some meditation. It's the gym. It's a sauna. It's an ice bath. And all of a sudden I'm seeing things change in my life because I'm letting other things go. And now I'm raising my floor. In my business, I'll give you another example. In my business, I don't take appointments that don't move me towards my goal. I have now eliminated those and I give those to other people. It's changing everything. What's my superpower? That's how you can answer this. What's your superpower? Bernil, Beverly, Jeff, Rebecca, what's your superpower? What are you good at? I'll tell you one of mine, and it didn't start as this, but this is now a new identity for me. When I speak, good things happen. When I speak on a workshop like this, on a stage of thousands, it doesn't matter. Good things happen. So that's my superpower. You know, you may think otherwise after today, but overall, it's my superpower. Okay, great. So how do I do more of that and let everything else go? That's the mission I'm on. Okay, so raise the floor. Okay, so that's the floor and the ceiling. And I'm going to share with you the last part of which is the game of impact. So that was the spirit of impact, right? Our purpose, our calling with our mission and values, raising the floor. And now we're going to get into the game of impact. The game. This is the game. And this is where I'll leave you guys with the game. Okay. Last, about a year and a half ago, I was on spring break with my kids and we rented this beautiful place on the water in South Texas on the ocean. I mean, literally the whole back of the house was the coolest thing ever. You guys don't know my story, but just 8 years ago with 5 little kids, we had 5 kids in 7 years. We had $27 in our pocket. And there's a whole story about that I write about in all my books. And it was a very pivotal day for me in my life. It was the first day I met Dave, actually. And my wife called. She's at the grocery store. We have $27. We can't even buy diapers for our kids. It was very, very humbling. And not only could I not buy diapers, I was supposed to take Dave for dinner that night. And so I had to call my parents at 36, 37 years old and ask for money to take my mentor to dinner. It was just humiliating. I couldn't even buy diapers. So when I tell you, like, a lot of people see where we're at now and what we're doing, and they're like, oh, that's easy for you to say. And I'm like, you guys don't know that stuff that I talk about is not that far in my rearview mirror. It's not that far. I can still see it. Okay. So if I share anything of that, I don't want you to think like, oh, I'm coming from a different place. I am not. But we are very proud of what we've done and we love it and we're grateful for it. And our whole purpose is to serve others with what we have. And we took our kids to South Texas on the ocean for spring break. And it was the coolest place. You like opened the door. The whole back of the house was like a sliding door that collapsed. And so the whole house was open to the ocean. And my kids could walk out 10 feet and fish. So I could sit there, work on my book, do other things, and watch my kids fish, and we'd go fish and we'd do all this stuff. It was so cool. And they're like, we spent all day outside, and me in the sun. I don't know if you guys can tell here. I don't do well in the sun. My wife is really, really dark. She's like Bohemian and Italian. And it's like, she can just say the sun and she gets tan, and I burn. So I'm outside all day. I'm exhausted. And we come in and the kids are like, hey, we want to watch a movie. I'm like, okay, fine. We're watching. I wanted to go to bed and I'm exhausted. And so we watched this movie. And have any of you seen the movie called The Founder about Ray Kroc and McDonald's? It's a fascinating story. If you ever want to watch a really cool, the way they do it's a really great movie. So you don't even have to be a business person to understand and appreciate it. But Ray Kroc was both a genius and a villain in some ways, right? Because he didn't start McDonald's. He took the idea and built it and kind of took the business from the brothers. But how it happened was he was partnered with them, and he goes to this bank to get a loan to keep expanding. And the guy overhears that he can't get money, and he goes to me. He said, Mr. Sonnenborn, he says, Ray, I hear you have a problem. I'd like to meet with you and help you fix it. And he meets with Ray Kroc, and Ray Kroc shares the whole business structure. And he says, Ray, this is so pivotal. And we're watching this movie, and I see this line, and he goes, Ray, you are not in the burger business. You're in the real estate business. You need to own the land that every store is on, and that's how you'll own everything going forward. And you could see it, like it just dawns on me. He's like, I think I'm selling burgers, but really if I own the real estate, that's the business. And I jump up out of the couch. I'm like, that's it. That's it. And my kid's like, Dad, you're weird. Sit down and watch the movie. I'm like, no, you guys, like, pause the movie for a second. I'm like, pause this. I'm weird. I'm like, did you hear what he said? And how much of us in life, we don't realize the game we're even playing. We don't even understand the game we're supposed to be playing. We're playing one game over here, realizing that the impact game is the game. The thing we do only facilitates the impact we can make. Meaning this, when I go speak on stages, that's the game I thought I was playing. No. I bring my kids and they get to see the game. And now they go, Dad, I could do this. Dad, I could do that. Yes, that's how I'm making an impact. Okay. And so I'll just share with you three real quick things here. There is who you are, what you do. Boy, this is really not going very well. And who you do it with. Who you are, what you do, and who you do it with. Okay. The who is the attitude that you have. There's like a delay in my writing, which is making it hard. So this is the model. It's the attitude. It's not necessarily the mindset. The mindset's here, but the attitude is how you show up. That's who you are. By the way, when I ask people, and I did this on purpose when I first started, I said, what is it that you do? And could put in the chat. I didn't see very many in there, but that's okay. When I ask what you do, the reason I start with that often is because what happens is I want to prove a point. People say, I'm a teacher, I'm a realtor, I'm a this, I'm a that. That is not who you are. It's what you do. That is not who you are. Who you are is what you bring to what you do. So who you are starts with this. You got to have an awareness. Awareness to your attitude. Okay. Then once you have an awareness, you're constantly in adjustment. Adjustment. There's like a delay when I'm writing. So it's like weird. It's not showing up as I'm writing. So adjustment. Think about teenagers, right? Hey, you have a bad attitude. You make them aware and you say, you got to better make an adjustment, adjust that attitude. But we're like that as adults, right? I was in a mastermind yesterday, and this guy that was there, he gets up to ask for help on his business. And I felt like no matter what we said, he had a problem for every solution. You never met people like that? They just have a problem for every solution you give them. I was like, man, this is so frustrating. He's not hearing. He's already got his answers. He already got it figured out. He just had a bad attitude. And it just killed the whole energy in the room. Okay. So sometimes that is us, right? Sometimes we're the people that light up the room when we walk in or when we walk out. We just don't know. We got to have an awareness. Okay. And so once you do, you are super aligned with who you are. You're in alignment because your attitude is aligned. Okay. There's a really interesting thing here. I go into the book that I've just discovered from impact players. Small nuance, but big impact. There's a difference between being dynamic and magnetic. Meaning this, there are lots of dynamic people, but magnetic people, others will stick and stay. I'll give you an example. Think about this, Spencer. I bet you know people like this. Great speakers. I was with a speaker one time and he was phenomenal. And so when I was early in my speaking career, I would get on stage and be like, man, I want to be like this guy. And there's nothing wrong with that, modeling after other people. But I tried to model, and even like I found myself copying his cadence and the way he said things and all this. And I had a friend in the audience and I bombed. I spoke right after him, which was terrible. And then I bombed. And I was just embarrassed. I want to go to my hotel room and hide. I didn't even want to be in the conference. And she came up to me in the hallway as I was going to the elevator. Thank goodness. I mean, I honestly was like, I'm never going to speak again. I'm never, like, it was bad. And she said, hey, I just want to share something with you. She said, can I give you some feedback? Side note, feedback is the breakfast of champions. I was like, sure, you can give me some feedback. She said, hey, I'm aware. I could see what was going on. I'm like, it was terrible. And she said, here's the thing I need you to know, Chaz. When you are you are magnetic. He is dynamic. He captures people's attention, but there's not much more to him other than that. Now, that's not a knock on him. It's just he shows up, does his thing, and leaves. She's like, that's not you. You care about people. And she gave me all this great advice. And she's like, that makes you magnetic. Keep that. Be you. So Bernil, Beverly, Jeff, Rebecca, be you. When you're aligned, your attitude is who you are. People stick and stay. The right people stick and stay. Okay. Now, the next is what? And I didn't space this out very well. Uh-oh. Okay. So, what is skills? What you do is your skill set. Okay. Your skills. Okay. So, with your skills, you assess them. You have assessments. I'm gonna have to figure out a better solution for doing this on a Zoom call because this is not great. Assessments. Then you acquire skills. It's interesting. I'm loving the crowds I'm finding myself in just now. I love that, Rebecca. Also, my last section of the book, Rebecca will speak to you a lot on that. You acquire skills. By the way, I did this one time in a business. Guy's like, well, I don't want to acquire all the skills. I'm like, no, but when you hire talent and you acquire talent on your team, when you hire people, you're acquiring their skills. That's why you hire them. So it's not just you acquiring every skill in life. Okay. Just a teacher. I love that. By the way, I think there is no greater calling in life than being a teacher. I just think being a teacher is the greatest thing. And I don't even just mean in school, but being a teacher in anything you do, teaching one-on-one with somebody is amazing. Okay. Assessments acquires, then you got to have accountability to your skills and to others. Okay. Accountability. The last game, because I know I'm on time here, is the relational game. Relational game. You have to play the relational game. By the way, when you show up with your attitude, with the right attitudes, you master your proficiency in your skill set, and you can play the relational game. And the reason I put this one last, I had a strong argument with myself, okay, that relational should be first. And I had it first. The reason why I have it last here is because I think it's the multiplier to the first two. And if you want to be, you could even be fairly weak in skill set, but if you master the relational game, you will still make a masterful impact. Okay. So here's how it is. You have associations. Oh, I don't even know what this looks like when I'm done. Associations. Okay. I'm just telling you what the word is. You can write it down. Associations. Then you affirm those relationships. And the foundation to all relationships is agreements. The challenge with most people is they operate their relationships on expectations, not agreements. You will change everything in your world if you have all your relationships based on agreements. I'll give you examples. My wife and I have an agreement that the last one out of bed makes the bed. It's just an agreement. It's not in writing, like we didn't sign it. It's not a contract. It's just a verbal agreement. And the reason we came to this is because I understood at one point in my marriage that she had an expectation that if I was the last one out of bed, I made the bed. Right. And one day she got really frustrated with me. And I'm like, why are you so frustrated with me? She's like, because like the last 4 days, you're the last one out of bed. You didn't make the bed. I'm like, well, that makes sense. I don't know why I didn't, but I didn't. So we should just have an agreement that the last one out of bed makes the bed. She's like, sure, sounds good to me. The good thing is I'm usually the first one out of bed. So that's why I like this agreement. Right. We have an agreement with our kids that we're teaching them certain things. So each week, one of them has to do the dishes. Okay. It's your job. This is the agreement. And if it's not done, by X time during the night, guess what? You might have it for another week. That's the agreement. Guess what? I have an agreement with my kids. They can come to any event I speak at. They have to show up. They have to take notes. And they have to talk to people. They can come to any event. That's the agreement we have. I promise you, when you operate out of agreement, not expectations, because remember, expectations is you putting it on someone else. Yeah, makes it tough for people in many ways, right? When you make the agreement, Spencer asked me to speak at this. I made an agreement. He asked me to make an agreement with him. I said, yes, I'll do it. Okay. And I agreed to what I would talk about. I don't know if I've met that agreement, but I agreed to do it. Okay. I agreed to certain things. There was no expectation in that. There was an agreement. And now you can manage the agreement, not the person. Think about that. You can manage the agreement, not the person. I have coached youth sports. I've taught. I do youth ministry stuff. When you manage an agreement with young people, it's so much better than trying to manage them as an individual. And you're just managing the agreement. They know what they've agreed to. And you just go back to that. Now it's not personal. Okay. I want to share something with you as I wrap this up. Okay. I'm going to just share this. This was like, to me, one of those divine intervention things. I'm going to share this with you. I'm going to stop sharing my screen. If I can. Yes. Okay. Because I want to see your faces. I want to share this with you because what I want you to know is that and I only touched on the first two frameworks, the calling and the game, right? The spirit of impact and the game of impact. The others are the point of impact and the path, how you make it work. But I want to share something with you. When I go write on this book, when I start writing the book, I need space to do that. And so my wife and I did an Airbnb cabin a couple hours away, just the two of us. We spent a week. Our kids were off at a camp, so it worked perfectly. And I was writing the book. I'm in the middle of this section. I kid you not. Like, I actually videoed this because it was one of those things, like, I couldn't believe it. I'm writing a section about the relational game. And I wrote in the thing that the point of impact, the point that you make an impact, where you start is you start with yourself and the four walls of your home. It doesn't matter who lives there. You could just be the only person. That's where you start. Because if you can't make the impact there, you're not going to be able to make an impact outside of that. And there's a high awareness to that. You guys, I kid you not. I am writing this section, and I'll just be straight up transparent with you. This brought me to tears. I have lots of stories in this book of people who've made impact players. And I was with my wife, and I'm writing this book, and my youngest two boys are twins. Okay. They're 15 years old. But just for context, this is a 15-year-old boy. Okay. Football player, tough, 15-year-old boy. I'm writing about impact, questioning my own impact in the world, because you have to if you're going through the lens of writing about others, right? You got to question yourself. I'll wrap with this. I'm in the middle of typing this, and I get a text from my 15-year-old son. He said this, and I'm going to read it exactly from the phone. He said, "Dad, you are my father and my guide. You've taught me to be a great young man and how to treat people with respect. I love that you show me how to overcome my trials and learn from them. I love you. I'm like, sorry, Spencer. I'm like, I could be done. I have friends that would give anything to have a conversation like that with their kids. And I say this because when I teach impact, I think sometimes people think it's thousands and millions of people. And I can tell you right now that there are people that maybe you don't have that kind of relationship with. I do an activity that I will show you how to break those barriers and how to break those walls. I had a sibling who I hadn't spoken to in a couple of years, not because I didn't want to, but I think there was some offense that she felt and didn't want to talk to me and felt maybe compared as siblings. And I sent her a message and it broke down everything. And now we're really close. And I share that because the impact in the world is so powerful. Ed Milet said something not that long ago. He said, the most insidious form of child neglect is a parent watching their child not fulfill their dreams. I started this by saying, in 2 or 3 generations, will anyone know you lived? Will you live your life in such a way that in 2 or 3 generations from now, people say our life forever changed because of Beverly, because of Jeff, because of Bernil, because of Rebecca, because of Spencer. My life is forever changed because of my great grandmother, my great grandfather, whoever it is. You have the possibility and potential in your life to make that change forever. It's my wish to each of you that you step into the greatness you have been called to do. Spencer, that's all I got, my man. I'm trying to stay on time. So it's been an honor and a pleasure to be with you guys. Sorry for a little bit of the emotion at the end, but brother, it's been good to be with you.
Please never be sorry for showing emotions, for being vulnerable, especially here. Like you're in a place that loves you, that supports you, no matter what. And just thank you so much for being raw, open, authentic, vulnerable with us. It means more than you know. Thank you. Um, all I could say is, wow, holy crap. I mean, I'm almost lost of words. Like I have pages of notes from this, and I love the triangular framework for the game section, and I'm excited to dig into it even more and learn. And like, okay, I know my values. I know, our pillars and cornerstones as energizers. That's great, but do we have like the values clearly laid out? I'm thinking like, no, I think those all fall into it, but let's get clearer on that. Um, I'm I'm just so grateful. I'd love to open up for questions for anybody. If anyone has questions for Chaz and anything, open it up. Any thoughts or questions?
Also, just so anyone knows while you're thinking of a question, every Thursday or the first Thursday of every month, I do something called Impact Day. And Spencer's one of my speakers next week. So you could come hear from him. Attendimpactday.com. Attendimpactday.com is completely free. So you can attend. Come here, Spencer.
I appreciate that. I was going to ask about that in a little bit. Or I put the link to attendimpactday.com in the comments, at least on Zoom, so you can join up for free. You get to hear me, Chaz, and Rachel Miller, I believe, is this one coming up. But every first Thursday of the month, you could join that. He has some amazing speakers joining him. This one he has to deal with me, so that's something. But we'll see how that goes. So Dr. Benjamin Hardy, for the name of the doctor. Any other questions or thoughts?
I was trying to see if I had his books from nearby, but they're phenomenal.
So as people are thinking of questions, so you talked about your book. We saw the copy of it, the draft. It'd be a little hard to read and open up like that. When is it supposed to be released, and how can people get a copy of it?
So I'm now careful to say a date because I've said 4 or 5 dates and we keep pushing it back a little bit. But I think realistically, our first launch of the book will be at the first of the year. So everyone who comes to attend Impact Day, that's a list of people we gather, and you'll be the first to get the books. You'll be the first to get the opportunity in the books. But I am sending it out to, like Dr. Benjamin Hardy and other people. I'm going to send it out to them, get their feedback. any changes, any improvements, and then we'll finalize the publishing and get it out the first of the year.
I
It's
love it. Yeah.
kind of
And
like anyone else published a book. It's kind of like putting your child out to the world. Like, it's this is my life's work on this one. So
it's nerve-wracking. And I don't care how many books you put out, every one you're just like, oh, I don't know about this. Is it going to be received and is it going to help people? And yeah, it's fun. How so for just so energizers know, I'm on that list as well for Impact Day, and so I'll know about the book and I'll be sure to share it with energizers in the family as well. But I would advise everybody to go attend Impact Day, and even if you can't make it, sign up so you can be notified about emails. But hopefully, then you could join one of the Impact Days coming up. How can all our energizers work with you or connect with you and learn more about the amazing stuff you are doing?
yeah, I would just say probably the easiest is social media. Just you can follow me there, Chaz Wilson or Chaz Wilson CEO on there. Right now we have 3 companies that we run, and my goal right now is all about impact. So I'm speaking on stages, consulting people, helping them make the biggest impact they can in the world. So if you follow me on social, you'll know where I'm at, what I'm doing, because half the time I don't know. So
I understand how that goes. Well, I'm
yeah.
going to challenge everybody to send either a message or make a post on Chaz's wall telling him something that you took away from today's call, right? And even if you're watching this on the replay, go on Chaz's wall, tell him what you got from this masterclass in the Energy Hub, because I would love to see it, and I'm sure he would love to see it as well. Is there any parting thoughts you'd like to share with us, Chaz?
Yeah, thank you. I just be you. You have special gifts. You're created. You have special talents, and I think the best way you can honor those who've gone before you in your life is to step into your talents and step into the things that make you you. And the world needs you. There's a lot of craziness in the world right now, I think, and I think we need more good people to step up and be louder and do the things they're meant to do.
I totally agree. And the way I would say that is step into your light and shine, right? You got that beautiful light, let it shine. Thank you, Chaz, for being here, sharing your love, your light with us, stepping into your true self and shining. And thank you, all of you, for sharing your love, your light with all of us, joining us. And go step into your light, go shine, because you are amazing, you are worthy, you are enough just the way you are. Thank you so much, everyone. Have an amazing day, and we'll see you next time. Bye.